All right. So once again, welcome. My name is Tammy Lesso, and I'm a coordinator in academic affairs in the College of Engineering, and I'll be moderating today's panel on careers in environmental and civil engineering. So our panel discussion is designed to highlight not only the careers of our panelists, but also to provide students with advice on launching their careers, providing perspective on the transition from college to career, as well as insights into the industry. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the staff that are represented on the call today. So today we have Holly Hernandez, Assistant Director of Employer Relations, Lisa Quasmanin, Career Education Specialist, and Christy Embrick-Searles, Marketing and Events Coordinator. All of these staff members are from the Center for Career and Experiential Education. Additionally, we'll be taking questions, Q&A from students in the audience. If you have any questions for our panelists, please type them into the chat feature you see on your screen at any time during the panel. We ask that students remain muted, so feel free to put those questions in the chat feature. We'll get to the questions at the end of the Q&A and end of the program. So let's get started. I'd like to once again welcome our panelists. We're so excited to have you here today. We have joining us from Tighe Bond, we have Joe Martin, who is in talent acquisition. And joining us from Pare Corporation is Matt Belisle, Senior Vice President. And from Beta, we have Frank Marinaccio, Project Manager. So welcome, panelists. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to start off by providing our students with introduction of yourselves. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your current occupations, and maybe a little bit about what your company is focusing on what you do in the civil and environmental areas. Also, if you have an affiliation with URI, feel free to put that out there as well. So why don't we start off with Frank, if you can start off with your introduction.
Hi, I'm Frank Marinaccio. I currently work for Beta Group. Our headquarters is here in Lincoln, and we have a few other offices around New England, 2 in Massachusetts, 3 in Massachusetts now, 1 in New Hampshire and 1 in Connecticut. I was a civil graduate from URI 2010 and started off with the city of Newport. Right out of school, I interned there while I was at URI and worked there for about 7 years. So I have that public background, and then switched over to Beta about 4 years ago. I'm a project manager here at Beta and work in the transportation and civil site departments, along with our GIS and asset management departments.
Great. Thanks, Frank. How about Joe? We'll let you go next.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Joe Martin. I am head of talent acquisition at the firm. I do onboarding and diversity work and work in the HR department. I do not have an engineering or science background, but for 10 years when I was in Boston, I recruited scientists and engineers for a patent law firm. The reason why I did that is because I'm a lawyer. It's a long story. People have long careers. But that's how I ended up doing science and engineering recruiting there. And that's how I ended up here, because we moved back home closer to our families. So that's my background. Tighe Bond is a civil and environmental engineering consulting company. We have 12 regional offices all across New England and Eastern New York. We service a very broad range of different sorts of services. We have a water group, horizontal construction, land use, transportation, coastal, landscape architecture, environment, both the clean and the dirty, and then vertical construction. So we try to run the whole gamut and offer solutions to clients that are looking for a whole asset approach.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. And how about Matt?
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah.
I'm Matt Belisle. I'm a Senior Vice President with Pare Corporation, and I've been with the firm for 23 years. So after graduation from the university in 1992, I started with a geotechnical firm, stayed there for about 5 years, and then came over to Pare as we were expanding up into the Massachusetts area. We now have 2 offices, the primary office in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and the office in Foxborough, which I also manage. My personal interests are geotechnical engineering, and to further that, I obtained a master's degree from the university in 2001, and then through my work experience, I've been able to specialize that even further down into dam engineering. And this has been a very helpful path for me in my career. I've enjoyed it a lot, and I look forward to sharing that with you. As a firm, Pare, very similar to Tighe Bond and Beta, we offer the full services for civil engineering, everything from traffic and transportation engineering to water, wastewater, environmental design, your site design and permitting, and of course, geotechnical engineering. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Matt. Why don't you start off with the next question, Matt? For our students today, what would a day in the life of an engineer look like at Pare Corporation?
And I've been trying to see that because you did give us the questions in advance, and the best answer I could come up with is variable. Probably no 2 days will look the same. Some days you will spend time in the field doing data collection, whether it be on a drill rig, whether it be out on a survey, conditions assessment, but there's a lot of data collection that occurs. After you're done collecting the data, the next day you could end up processing the data. You could end up doing some laboratory work, you'll be doing some calculations, and you will be writing a lot of reports.
So writing is an essential skill to have, right?
Writing is a very essential skill to have.
Good to know. Frank, how about you take a shot at this question? What would a day in the life of an engineer look like at Beta?
Yeah, basically it's pretty much just what Matt said. We do kind of the same type of work, but we have 9 different departments here at Beta. So depending on what department you're in is what you'll be doing, on a day-to-day basis and what types of projects you'll be working on. We have a lot of projects that require multiple disciplines. So we have a lot of groups that work together, and our project teams are put together between departments. So yeah, there's a lot of report writing, AutoCAD, putting together plans. We manage projects from the initial stages, helping a municipality, a town or city figure out what projects they want to do, and steer them into the pros and cons of what types of projects that they want to do for their city or town. And then we help them through design, bidding, and all the way through construction. We focus a lot on and trying to change our report style to be more helpful for municipalities. So trying to explain those technical engineering concepts to be more understandable by the general public, so they understand what's happening in their city. But it's no 2 days look the same, like Matt said, and it's great to be able to get out into the field and take those initial measurements and data collection, come back, design the project, work with your project team and some other departments to produce a complete project, and then you get to manage it throughout construction. So seeing something that you actually designed built out in the field. And I know my family is really sick and tired of me, pointing out things that I've designed, or when we're on vacation, explaining, some engineering subject to them. But it's, what makes us love our job and, work to produce the things that we use and take for granted every day.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's intriguing to our current students is the fact that they get out into the field. I think that they love that idea. They're I think they're amenable to the fact that, yes, they'll have to do some report writing and data collection and all of that. But I think the appeal in civil engineering to a lot of our students is the fact that they can get out into the field. So that's great. Thank you. So I'll let Joe go next with this question. What advice would you give current students in their transition from college to career?
Yeah, we had a little fun thinking of all the things that we wanted to say with this, but I think it's really important to stay connected in your industry outside of your company to make sure that you have a relationship with people through associations, through other kinds of professional organizations. It's very important to know who the people are on your teams and even on other teams to sort of network with individuals across different offices, across different disciplines, just to build those internal relationships. I mean, know that you are going into the field with some education and knowledge, but know that it's a small percentage of what you're going to learn on the job. And it's really okay to not know the right answer to begin with. You might have to ask a lot of questions. You're definitely encouraged to ask a lot of questions. And you know, what you really know how to do is you have the basics and you know how to think, you know how to problem solve. So that's the first thing. So really being able to connect with those individuals that are going to be able to mentor you. That's really important. Probably not the person that's your direct manager, but I would say seek out an individual or a group of individuals. Like, for example, I always say have a good board of directors at your work where you can go and ask the questions about your career. The other thing I think that's important about consulting is you're going to usually have a mix of work. And I think it's a good idea to really understand what you like and the reasons why you like it, and then advocate for getting more of it. So that's going to begin to sort of shape your career. So in some situations where people have started at Tighe Bond, maybe they are a environmental engineer and they start working on environmental projects and they really love the planning and they've moved over to the planning department to do more of that because they love the client interaction and they like some of the other pieces of the work. So I would just say, you know, use your voice to advocate for yourself, ask a lot of questions, stay networked, stay curious, and stay learning. All those things are going to make you a great engineer.
That's great, Joe. Really, really good advice there. I love the networking piece. We talk about networking. All of us in the career centers here, we talk about networking ad nauseum. So I love hearing it from the professionals in the field as well. Frank, anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, don't be discouraged. You know, right now there's a lot of job positions in the engineering field, and it's been that way for a while, at least since I graduated from URI. When I first started at URI, there were 5 applicants to every 1 job for a business degree and 5 jobs for every 1 applicant for engineering. So it's a field that will always be here. We'll always need transportation. We'll always need public works and services. So that's a big thing. I would definitely say networking. As an engineer, a lot of us aren't very, you know, extroverted or out there and outgoing, but it's something that I've definitely had to learn. And you get used to it as you become more comfortable talking to people and making those connections. Joining, you know, those affiliate groups like ASCE and APWA and getting involved is a really big thing. And to get experience however you can, and like Joe said, you're not gonna know everything. Every consultant or even within a consultant, whatever group or focus or project you're working on is going to be completely different. But you have the basic skills from college that you know how to problem solve, you know how to think critically, and don't be afraid to be innovative and you know, really advocate for yourself, because no one's going to know what you can do until you show them or you can demonstrate what you can do.
So true. Thank you so much, Frank, for that. So I'll toss this one out to Matt. What are some of the career pathways students can look for when they're seeking entry-level jobs at Pare Corporation?
Yep. Well, Pare is a multidisciplinary civil engineering firm. So you can come into one of our specific divisions, and this will allow you to focus your activities. So if you've got a geotechnical interest, you can join my division. Highway and transportation, go to a different division. But one of the things that's really nice is while you may be in that division, our projects typically include teams built from the multiple divisions. So on a geotech side, we get to work with all of our colleagues and all of the other divisions across the company. And this does give you a great flexibility and ability to expand your knowledge and what your background is. So it's very helpful there. We follow a path of engineering into project management and then into the seller doer model. We don't have a separate project management and technical track as some firms do. So we give you the ability to move completely through the system from start to finish. If you have an interest in project management, you can go that way. If you want to stay on the technical side, you can stay that way, but you don't have to pick that track right at the beginning or at any time in your career. It's really the way you're going to go after projects and what assignments you're going to take on. So it's pretty flexible. And again, we get to work on a lot of projects. Being a smaller firm, only about 110 employees, we do get involved with a lot of the projects going on within the firm across the divisions.
That's great. Joe, how about you? What recommendations can you give to students when they're seeking career pathways at the entry level level?
Were you talking? I'm sorry. Did you ask me that?
Yeah, I was talking to you.
So I didn't hear
That's
my
all right.
name, but I heard the question. So we have about 420 employees, and we have all different areas of the firm. I would say the first position would be the staff engineer one. That could be, it could be civil, it could be water, it could be structural, it could be mechanical, it could be electrical. So that's the sort of the one version. There's also the environmental scientists. So environmental scientists often work on that sort of the wetlands side where they're doing delineation and in the field a lot, or the other side of the environmental science where they're doing remediation and cleanups, those kinds of things. We have a GIS technical one position. We have a landscape architecture one position. It's really a landscape designer one. And then, and those are all ways that you sort of the entry points for the technical side of the business. As you move up, we've tried in the last couple of years to really design career paths for individuals. So you really move from that, say a staff engineer, just I'll give one example. You would go from staff engineer 1 to staff engineer 2, and then you would take the PE and become a project engineer 1 and then a project engineer 2. And then a little different from what Matthew was talking about, it splits at Tighe Bond, and it goes into sort of like, if you have more interest in doing more technical work, you go onto a technical track. That's a project engineer, senior project engineer, that sort of that side. Or you go into project management, where we provide a lot of training for people who really want to go in the direction of sort of minding clients, and you go in that direction. From a career pathing perspective at Tighe Bond, that's all the ways, sort of the titles and the ways that you go up, but then there's also the organizational structure. So you have the opportunity to become a team leader, and then there's a resource manager above that, which helps distribute work. And then there's technical directors, and then business line leaders at the very top. So there are ways to sort of maneuver around the company and have more responsibility and shape your career at Tighe Bond. So that's kind of how it works with us as a mid-sized company.
Very interesting. Very different from Pare. That's interesting that the transitions, a little bit of difference there. But Frank, how about you?
Yeah, our company is about 175 people, and we're set up more like Matt's company, Pare, where you don't have those two separate tracks. There are some positions within the company that are, strictly client-based, but as an engineer, you can start out at, an entry-level position in any of the different departments, and our departments all work together. There's a lot of projects that use a lot of different types of engineering. So as a consultant, that's really why a client would hire us, because we have all those different types of engineering. And there are some opportunities we do have a construction and administration department who strictly does construction inspection. So if you're focused more on the construction side, you can do that. We work a lot with our construction people, and we also do a lot of construction inspection as an engineer too. If you're the designer of a project, to be out in the field inspecting portions of it. But we have a lot of different career paths. We're an employee-owned company, so every employee has a stake in the company, and right from day one, and it helps everybody to be accountable and work towards what you want to work towards. We have the same type of structure where you start off as an engineering designer and then work your way up from there. And as you build your career, you have more connections with the clients that you are working on projects for. So that'll come with time, and as you go along in your career, you'll make those connections, and that will allow you to get more projects for the firm that way. It's kind of like a project management and a technical all in the same job description.
That's great. So I'm going to keep you on the spot, Frank. Can you let us know and let the students know that are on the call how Beta adjusted to the pandemic, and how will it affect future employees of Beta?
So for Beta, we just moved into a new office about 2 years ago now. Time's kind of weird with the pandemic, but about a year before COVID happened. So have this nice, beautiful office in Lincoln, the new headquarters, 2 floors, looks really nice. Everybody has adequate space, and we actually have room for everybody and all of the equipment and things that we need to do projects every day. And then spent a year getting used to it, and then haven't used it for a whole year. So we just started coming back into the office 2 weeks ago, and we're doing an every other day type of thing. But even before COVID happened, we were starting to use more technology in the way that we do things. So upgrading to Office 365, using Teams, using Zoom, using OneNote, and some type of project management software that we can communicate with people no matter if they're in the field or in the office, or if you need to pull up any type of plans in the field, to have a strong, robust network to be able to access all your project files. So we were transferring to that type of system anyway, so it's really helped during COVID. When we went to working from home full time, it was a seamless transition. Everybody on our team worked really well using Teams already within the office because you're always out in the field checking out something and then coming back and doing some design work in the office every other day or whatever the project facilitates or needs. And so we needed that way to communicate and keep our communication with people being in and out of the office. So that really helped. As far as what that's going to look like in the future, we're not really sure, but it's been proven that the work from home platform works. So how can we bring that into the normal way that the company does business? We're still a company, we're still here. We've gone through the pandemic and have been successful. So getting that model to become part of what we do every day or every week is something that we're figuring out, but it seems that we're open to it now that we see that it can work.
Yeah, that's great. And Matt and I were talking a little bit before we opened it up to the students, and it sounds like Pare, similar situation. I think they use Teams, but I'll let Matt talk about it in terms of how Pare adjusted and what that looks like for the future.
Okay, thank you. Similar to what Frank indicated for Beta, Pare was already moving over to that Office 365 Teams platform. I'll be honest, we were getting some resistance from people going, why do we have to learn this? Why are we learning a new system? And then COVID hit, and everyone's like, wow, I'm so glad we started this back in 2019. And it made our transition, I won't say seamless, but it made it very workable, and we didn't have too much of a learning curve to get onto this video platform that we're all very used to now. So we've been able to keep moving very seamlessly. We did have people work remotely for probably about 6 months. We started to bring people back into the office last fall, but then again, when the numbers started to roll up again, we gave everyone the opportunity to go back home and work remotely. And we're getting ready to have a return to the office on a rolling fashion, probably at the end of March, as the numbers continue to drop down for us. So we've incorporated a lot of this technology now into our daily life, and we're going to keep it. We've proven, as Frank said, that remote working can work. And while we don't want to go to 100% remote, we recognize the value that it can offer to some of our employees and to the firm as a whole. So some of that will get incorporated into our procedures going forward. It's helped with our clients, being able to keep them up to date and exchange information. So really the pandemic forced us to learn some of the new technology that was out there that people may have been hesitant to adopt right away. The one area that we're really going to be paying attention to, though, is our entry-level engineers. That's something that is very difficult to do in a remote fashion. We want to make sure that those coming into the firm get the same experience that I had and that Frank had and that everyone's had coming into work, where you get to sit down, you're thrown into a team, you sit around a table, you brainstorm. We want to make sure all of that continues to happen, and that some of that learning that occurs by osmosis, by hearing what's happening around the water cooler or in the hallway, we give those opportunities for the new engineers as they join our teams, because we want you to develop into strong engineers.
That's great. Joe, how about Tighe Bond?
Yeah, thank you so much. I echo everything that they've said. You know, we use different platforms. The Microsoft Teams platform in particular is wonderful from a video perspective. That's been really careful. That's been very good. I think a couple of other ways that we've responded is, one of our core values is safety at Tighe Bond, and we've been very cautious about the ways that we make sure that individuals are informed and that they're taking safety training, and before they go out in the field, they have all of the things that they need, that they're traveling in separate cars, that they're doing certain things that are keeping everybody safe, and safe in the offices too. Basically, our capacity is about 10% at the moment, and it's sort of fluctuated back and forth. First, there was nobody, and then a couple of people started coming in, and that's totally fine. I mean, my whole row is completely empty at the moment. And we have, like I said, somewhere between 10 and 15%. Another thing that we did when the pandemic started is we allowed people to reduce their hours. So with family and people who are sick and people who are struggling just emotionally and other reasons, you know, we said basically everybody has the flexibility to go down to 35 hours or maybe 30 hours and still retain their full benefits. And they didn't have to make any explanations as to why they needed it. We just automatically allowed people to reduce hours in order to accommodate their own certain circumstance. The other thing is when FICRA leave came around, and that's the intermittent family leave that you can have when somebody's sick or family and that kind of thing. You know, we decided before there was any guidelines, we said basically people could take it just hours at a time, whatever they needed to do. You know, we were there for them to do that. We did a wellness challenges for people because we also recognize that, you know, people are exhausted. It's a really hard time. Everybody's having a hard time, you know, like at some level, maybe a little bit, but sometimes are a lot. And so we're doing these wellness challenges to get people to do things, to do self-care so that they can continue to be good employees for the company, you know. So we were doing a lot of that. And then the last thing that I would say is that we're doing a remote onboarding process that feels really hard in terms of the adjustments, but actually, you know, we did a lot of research, we did a lot of thinking about companies that were doing remote onboarding before the pandemic. Like, how does that look? What do you do? How do you do it? And so, you know, we have people go into the office, pick up all their equipment, do their I-9s with one point of contact in the office. And then they do all their remote onboarding on Teams with our IT team and all the different organizations. Like within Tighe Bond, we set everything up for the corporate departments. And we've had a lot of really positive, very positive feedback because what we realized is that if people were remote, we have to be really intentional about how they come on board, so that they make sure that they have everything, and it's kind of a little bit more centralized, honestly. So that's, that's what we decided to do. I think it's been going really well. In terms of coming back to the office, we were already written a policy about return to the office. We have regular meetings with, our executive group and et cetera. I just think it's going to be a hybrid. I don't think people are going to come back full time, 5 days a week, everybody in the office. I have a feeling that some people really think it's important that people are in the office and other people don't. And so I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like. I think it might be a 3-day a week kind of thing, or it's when your team's in the office, you're expected to be in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That means those are days where everybody's in, or something like that, but I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So
yeah, a lot to think about in terms of, how we've been sort of thrust into this, and now, hopefully the very near future we'll be able to go back to almost sort of normal life. But what does that look like, right? What does normal mean now, right? It's a new normal, but it's interesting to hear the different perspectives. But Joe, I'm going to toss the next question out to you, but we would love to hear about what Tighe Bond has done surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot more clear conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion since the murder of George Floyd last year. I think once, people were on the streets and were having conversations, I think the company, there was much more of an urgency around doing diversity work, even though we've had a formal committee for probably, I think we're coming up on 4 years now, where we've done pieces. I think that the company itself is a lot more geared in the direction of making, taking actions. And what does that look like, and how can we do that? And one thing that we've done, I'll just make a very quick list. One thing is that on our strategic plan for this year is to write a comprehensive diversity plan. So it's like it is 100% part of like the CEO's complement of things that he wants to get done for the year this year. And in the meantime, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee have been working on roundtable discussions. We've watched some film together, had discussions together. We have supported the 50K Coalition, which we're really excited about. That's one of the partnerships, and that's the promise of graduating 50,000 diverse engineers by 2025. That's part of NSBE's organization. There's a lot of organizations involved. And we're also a partner with NSBE. We started a scholarship this year. We're contributing to emergency fund money for students, students that are participants in NSBE. And going forward, we're going to be involved in conferences. And so, we have a real desire to do better. And I think that we have a composition of a very white company that doesn't want to look like it looks anymore. But how do we get there? What do we do to get there? And that's part of the active conversations happening right now at Tighe Bond.
Yeah, wonderful. And if you ever want to do anything with NSBE here at URI, just let me know.
I do.
Matt. Right, let's talk. Matt, how about Pare? What kind of conversations are happening around DEI?
Very, very important conversations. Again, we look around the office and we see a lot of folks that look like me. We recognize the importance of diversity within our workforce, and we've always been taking efforts to find a diverse workforce from our recruiting standards, from our standard EOE plan. But given the recent events, we've really stepped it up, and we've established a task force to really look at how that we can make an impact. How should we adjust possibly our recruiting standards? Unfortunately, go to other colleges where there may be more diverse graduates coming out who can bring different ideas, different backgrounds to the solutions that we're looking at. So we're trying to incorporate that all into our daily activities. We're continuing to support all involvement with the professional activities. We're very proud to indicate that we've had the first woman president of the Providence Engineering Society back years ago, Carrie Powers-Orsi. We've got Amy Archer, who's very involved with Women in Transportation. And we're continuing to support everybody who wants to be involved, and encourage those involvements within those different organizations that will help to spread that diversity and account for the equity and inclusion. We've also brought it into our engineering and our design as well, and we're looking for that social equity. The Envision Design certification really does look at that to make sure that the projects aren't targeting or aren't going to impact one demographic more so than another. So we want to bring it full cycle, not only into our internal hiring business practices, but also into the designs and projects that we get to look back on and drive around and point out to our children, as we all do. Frank, I almost commented when you said that my kids were tired of me stopping and looking at the soils in different states as we drove through and saw that there was red clay in different places. And so this is something that, again, we hope to be able to look back on and say that we were part of this and part of this change that occurred, and you know, be inclusive. That's the best way that I can answer that.
Yeah. Important conversations to be having today, and it's good to see that the initiatives are in place. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to get through probably 2 more questions. I'm going to jump around a little bit. So I'm going to actually address this to our alumni on the panel, Matt and Frank. So Matt, I'll let you go. So what was significant about your education at URI that supported your career?
I'll be brief because I know you've got a couple more questions, but I'm going to say it's the completeness of the core classes that we took. You got introduced to all aspects of civil engineering, but then the ability to take that and to focus it down during the professional elective selection. I think that was very helpful for me to be able to identify areas of interest and specialize on that and going forward. So that really, in a nutshell, is the way I'll answer that question.
Frank, how about you?
Yeah, I think junior year, when you take, all 5-year classes, or, the 5 different types of civil engineering, was, very eye-opening and really helped me to define my career path. Where when you enter the job market, what you start to work on, projects you start to work on are, what hopefully is your interest, so that you become, almost an expert in that, and you can use your experience and what you learn even after college to continue in that field. And I think that was very important for me. And the problem solving is that giving you all the tools that you need to help you to figure out solutions to problems that you think would be solved by now, having had engineering for however many years it's been a thing. But there's always new challenges, and modes and things are always changing. So giving you that foundation on how to come up with solutions to those complex problems is the mindset that's taught at URI, and how it gives you the tools you need for when you graduate and you enter the job market. Did
you have a favorite class?
I have a lot of favorite classes, actually. I loved, I took, geotechnical with Dr. Baxter, and that was one of my favorite classes. I didn't end up going into that. Same with water resources with Dean Wright. I think it was one of his last classes that before becoming dean, and it was, one of my favorite classes, although, I don't love hydrology, but I kind of focus more towards transportation, but took a lot of good courses with Dr. Hunter for transportation, and Myra Gimby too. So I still keep in contact with them, and actually talk to them a lot about students and opportunities and projects that we're working on now. So
beautiful.
Good background.
Yeah. Well, if either you or Matt want to go for the dean position, the posting is up. So I'm assuming you both know that Ray is retiring. All right. So what I would love for our students to hear from you all, if you have this information available, is if you have any internship or job announcements that you would like to make. I will start off. I think I might have thrown this question in after I sent you the questions. So sorry if I'm catching you off guard. But if you do have any internship or job announcements, here's your chance to selfishly exploit them. But if you don't know any of them off the top of your head, if you could just give our students that are on the call information on how they can explore career opportunities that are available. So Frank, since you were last, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, well, on our website, we always have an employment section, and all of our available job openings are right there. And we have different offices, so there's different jobs in different offices. But on March 25th, we're having a virtual workshop, a virtual open house. We normally have it once a year and invite students to the office, and you can talk to all the different types of engineers and see the office and see how we work. We really look at the mindset of we're looking for good people, and then from there we'll see what opportunities we have. We don't normally have, all right, here's a job opportunity and it needs to be filled. We keep them open until we find somebody that really fits what we're looking for here. And even if there's something that isn't there, we are always looking for good people to be part of our team. So that's kind of how we do it. And I'd also like to say that, we have 3 consultants here on the panel, but there's also the other side is the public side. I started on the public side, and I'm part of APWA, which is American Public Works Association, and the committee chair for the YP committee, which is the Young Professionals Committee. So if you're in school or after school, you're considered a young professional for probably maybe the first 5 to 10 years that you're working for a company or a municipality. But on the private side, I would say 80 to 90% of our work is for municipalities. We have some private projects for hotels and some sites like that, but all of the work comes from the municipalities. You can also work for a city or a town and bill it that way also. It's a little bit different from the consulting side, but it is a really good eye-opening career path that you get to work on a lot more broader variety of projects, although you don't design them down to the nuts and bolts like you would on the consulting side.
That's great, Frank. And I just want to say to the students on the call that the beta March 25th virtual open house is being advertised in the newsletter. I'll push that out again next week. And also the APWA that Frank mentioned, the public works opportunities, that is also in the newsletter. There's a live link to the current openings, so please explore. A lot of great, like Frank said, a lot of great opportunities in public works. And so I'll go next to Joe. Feel free to let us know what you're recruiting for.
I hope it's okay, but I just typed it all in the chat.
That's beautiful.
Okay, great. Let me just share that. I'm going to share that. I just thought that would be the easiest way to go.
Awesome.
What's interesting is that in the last week or so, I've had multiple requests, and we're working on posting all of it. It's actually, we're kind of in the middle. So we are looking, we weren't looking before, but now we are looking for a mechanical staff engineer for Westfield or Westwood. Those are both in Massachusetts. We're looking for a GIS tech in Worcester, a GIS intern in Worcester. We're looking for electrical staff engineer in Westfield or Westwood, electrical intern in either one of those locations, and also a water intern in Worcester. In the future, I think we're going to have a coastal position that's open, and that's a brand new group. We just acquired a very small coastal practice in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. And it's in our newest office. It just opened first of this year, and that's part of our land use and transportation group. And so that coastal position is going to be probably focused a little bit more on a land use slash site civil. Might need a little bit of structural to do that, the seawall sort of work. But I think that's it. I do try to keep the website up to date. I am going to update Handshake. I do have a few things I need to take down and put up. So if you hang in there for maybe another couple of days, we'll have an accurate list. So thanks so much.
That's great. That's wonderful opportunities for our soon-to-be graduates. And Matt, how about Pare?
I don't have a list of the open positions right now, but there is one currently on our website under the opportunities section, which is very common to most of the consultants out there. We are looking to hire entry-level engineers. We really do like to start at that entry level and give everyone an opportunity to rise through the ranks within the firm. So we don't often look to bring in senior folks. We're looking for that entry level. URI has always been a great source of engineers for us. The president of the firm is actually a URI graduate. I am, and a number of my staff are URI alumni as well. So please review our website, which is www.parecorp.com. We also have it updated on Handshake. So I think you can find a link through that approach as well. But similar to what Frank said, we like to hire quality engineers, and sometimes they show up when there isn't a posting. So if you feel that there's something that sets you apart and there isn't a job posting for exactly the position you're looking for, send in your resume, include a cover letter telling me why you're special, and we'll take a look at it. And this will come in through our human resources, Lori Cunningham, and her link is on the website. But again, we like to hire the quality engineers, and that may happen between our typical hiring times of graduation time now or graduations in the winter time. So don't hesitate to send those through. But I will emphasize the importance of your cover letter. All your resumes kind of look about the same, but the resume, you get to set yourself apart, and that's what I look at most.
So I should probably check my emails, because I'm probably getting emails from students on how to write a cover letter. Thanks, Matt. And I can be busy over the next couple of days.
Sorry.
Apologies. This has been a great conversation, and I can't say how valuable how valuable this information is, hearing it from the folks that are doing the work, are doing the recruiting, are meeting these candidates. And so to provide this information for our students is absolutely wonderful. We have about 12-ish or so minutes left. And so for the students that are on the call, this is your opportunity to connect with these professionals. So please put some questions in the chat. Ask anything, we'll get those answers for you. Think about what we might have missed, if there's a gap that you would like to be filled, and ask a question for our panelists. This is the time. This is an awesome time to ask those questions. And the other recommendation that I'm going to make for the students on the call is, if you are on LinkedIn, great opportunity for you to connect with Matt, Frank, and Joe. So take a moment today to connect with these professionals. Again, earlier the discussion was about networking. So take that advice to heart, and definitely network with these professionals. So while the students are thinking about some questions, I actually have one, and it actually came up in yesterday's Lunch and Learn, and it was about the benefit of the EIT and the PE designation. So perhaps maybe Matt, you can talk about those designations and how they differentiate the individual coming in with those designations, or eventually getting those designations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both the EIT and the PE are pretty big milestones for civil engineers. In order for you to be able to stamp drawings, obviously you need to have that PE, and the first step is the EIT, the FE exam. I would recommend doing that as soon as you can, when all the chemistry, thermodynamics, and related information is as fresh in your head as possible. And it's valuable to come into the firm with that. But we've hired a number of engineers who haven't taken the exam yet, and that they take it shortly after joining the firm. Same with the PE. You definitely want to start working towards your professional engineers degree, because as a civil engineering designer, you would be limited in some of your advancement if you can't stamp the drawings and the designs that you're working on. So there could be some limiting factors there depending upon the firm that you join and the activities that you're taking on. Not all activities require that PE stamp, but a good amount in our field, the civil engineering field, do. And the best bet is, collect all your calculations, make sure you have those, continue learning through the opportunities that you're given under your job, and go for that PE as soon as you're able to do so. And don't hesitate to take the review course. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very helpful. It gives you a lot of real good pointers and help as far as how to prepare for the exam and how to sit down and actually take it. For those of you who have taken the FE, there were a lot of tricks on that one. It's been quite a few years since I've taken it, but I remember time was really the big deal on the FE, and it was a great recommendation for us to say, hey, if those thermal questions, you're not getting, just kind of buzz right past those. Same with the PE. They'll be giving you ideas on how to prepare for it and how to be able to move through it as efficiently as possible.
Great. We do have a question from a student, and maybe Frank, you can address this one. So the student's question is, how valuable are certain degrees to your companies? For example, if you intend to continue on to get your PhD or versus having a bachelor's?
I say, for the consulting side, I would say that, having the FE or the PE is probably the most important. Like Matt said, it's kind of, I always equate it to an MD for a doctor or an Esquire for a lawyer. It gives other people in the industry I don't want to say safety, but like the knowledge that you know what you're talking about and that you've gone through the necessary steps to make sure that you are designing things correctly. Because a lot of what we work on, almost everything in the world is based on liability. So when you're designing something, you then become liable for what you design. So having that PE, I think, is one of the big things. If I didn't stay in school for a master's or doctorate degree because I wasn't completely sure what type of civil engineering I wanted to do. And so I didn't know what I wanted to specialize in until, I started working. So it's not something that is necessary like it is in some other professions where you need to have a master's degree, but it definitely helps in that same type of regard as, learning as much as you can. You should always try to learn as much as you can about whatever you're interested in or whatever you're working on, so that you can become the best at what you're passionate about. And so I think that it really helps, those graduate degrees really help to give you a broader basis on a more specific type of engineering. So if you know what you want to go towards, then that's great, and it's a good path. But it's also just as good as a path to take your FE and start working under a professional engineer to see how you like that industry, and then continue towards PE also.
Yeah, that's great advice too, because I know that civil engineering is a little bit different, and I think there's a little more emphasis on that in this discipline as well. So we have another question from a student, and maybe Joe, you can help with this. But the student is asking, what are some characteristics of a good cover letter for an entry-level position?
Thank you. Can I just hop on that last thing just really
Of
quickly about
course.
both the FE, PE, and graduate
Yes.
degrees? Just really quick from Tighe Bond's perspective, definitely on the EIT, take it as soon as you can while it's all fresh in your mind. You don't have to take it exactly what Matt said. With regard to graduate school, there's a couple of areas that it's helpful to have a graduate degree, a master's degree at Tighe Bond, but you don't have to have it. One is structural, and the other one is water resources. Our water resources group just happens to be that the leader likes to see master's students. In either case, if you come to Tighe Bond, there's two different things that we do. One is we have a loan repayment program. It's a benefit that we offer, and we pay down people's student loans when they join us. So you can go get your master's degree, and then we pay down part of your student loan. And then the other one is tuition reimbursement, which we pay 75% of qualified classes. So if you came to work for us as an undergrad, then we would pay tuition reimbursement for you to go to get your graduate degree. So both of those are different ways to kind of get to the same place. Okay, sorry. Best cover letter advice that I have for you is do not restate what's in your resume, because people can read your resume. Do not restate what's in your resume. Use it as a marketing tool for whatever it is that you think differentiates yourself from other people, and try to write it from the perspective of what's in it for the employer. Not what you want to get out of the job, but more what you have to offer to the company. And then the last thing I would say about cover letters is that they should be influential. They should be memorable, but not in an unprofessional way, in a professional way. But think about those things that make you have like your special sauce. Like, what is that? What's super unique about you that you would never put on a resume? Something about like, I worked all the way through school, here's here's a piece of adversity that I've overcome. This is what's different about me. This is how I bring these perspectives together, or something like that. Those are the things that like really make a compelling cover letter, in my opinion. So
Can I add into that? One of the things that
course.
I like is to understand why you chose engineering.
Yeah.
Again, what's driving you here? That's important as well as everything else that Joe said. But yeah, I'll reiterate: don't mimic and just put into text or into narrative your resume. That's a waste of paper.
Yep.
I would
agree.
also say that if you can, put a picture on your resume too, because having that face to match to everything, I wouldn't put it on a cover letter, but maybe on the resume. A lot of professional resumes, once you start working on projects, have a picture, and it really helps students to stand out, because you go to a job fair and you get a stack of 10 pictures, right? What student was that? Who is he? Who is she? I can't remember what they look like. It helps to remind that person later. Or, a lot of times the people that are at the job fairs aren't the ones who are looking at the resumes. So when those resumes get handed off, at least you have something there.
We check out LinkedIn anyway, so you might as well just put it on the resume.
That's
I have a little bit of a different take. Is it okay if I say something about that?
Yeah, you've got about 30 seconds or so, and then we got to close up. But go ahead.
Just from a diversity perspective, I try to think about bias in the resumes, and so to me, I feel a twinge of uncomfortable when somebody puts their picture on there from a perspective of trying to bring in as many diverse perspectives as possible. That's all.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I've heard before as well. But again, just recognizing that everyone Googles the resume when they come in, that information is probably out there. But yeah, you try to review the resumes as they come in kind of with blinders on, and look at the qualifications and the accomplishments of the applicant before we try to look at it from a diversity or from a who they are standpoint.
Fantastic. Well, we are right at the 1 o'clock mark. I mean, look at us, right? Perfect. And I can't thank you enough. But what I want to say that for our students that are on the call, if we didn't get to your questions in the chat, we want to first thank you for your interest in having this conversation with our panelists, and we'll try to get these questions to our panelists so we can get answers to you. I also want to remind the students on the call that every day this week, lunch and learn panels, as well as career conversations in the evening. Please take advantage of these opportunities that are happening throughout the week to connect with our alumni and our experts. Also, continue to check Handshake in your emails for updates from both the Career Center as well as myself. And then finally, I want to say a really special thank you to our panelists. We so appreciate your time. We cannot do this without you and without your dedication to our students. So thank you so much. Also, a special thank you to the Career Center staff for supporting this panel, as well as all of the events that are happening this week. Cannot do this effort without that support. And especially to the students on the call. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know that you're busy. We really appreciate your time and your effort in showing up. Please continue to check Handshake and your emails for updates on the career events that are happening throughout the week. And once more, thank you to our panelists. Again, this can't happen without you. We really appreciate your being here. And most importantly, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.